Hey everyone, Jack Mordick here. The following video is dedicated to Hatsune Miku in commemoration of her 18th birthday. Happy birthday, Miku, and thank you for everything. You see her on plushies, video games, novels, posters. See, she's right there. The concerts. What? Do I look like I can afford to go to Japan? And even... Get a fucking sex life, you fucking freaks. What the question of me? Oh, the fuck is she? Because for some reason, there have been a good chunk of people, in recent years, mainly uneducated children, who, genuinely look at Hatsune Miku and think, for some reason, who is this AI? No, get out of here. It's like, okay. First of all, hand me a bottom, because I am going... Somebody's getting a spanking tonight. Because, honestly, you don't dare disrespect her in my presence, okay? Okay. She's the OG fucking gangster. Put respect on her name. But in all seriousness, so... I suppose for context I'll have to take you back, in time, a bit, to the decade of the 2000s. This is a time where, basically, to put it mildly, everything was fucked. And I mean fucking everything. Everyone, the human race as a whole, had just kind of given up. It wasn't just in Japan either, or in America. It was like all around the world. The world was obsessed with this idea of death, despair, and giving up and giving in. And I mean, hell, here in America alone. I mean, you know, fucking bullying was so out of control during this time that, like, the US fucking government actually considered stepping in at one point, although you know that they obviously didn't end up actually doing jack shit because they never do. But there was a law proposed for a while there. I don't remember if it went through or not, but basically outlawing bullying, which would have presented a whole nother slew of issues if they had done that. But, you know... yeah. During this time, I was in a particularly bad place, as were millions, if not billions, of other people around the globe. And it was during this time that, well, that Hatsune Miku first stepped onto the scene. Hatsune Miku was first released to the world on August 31st of 2007. As cutting-edge vocal synthesizer software that anyone with the proper know-how could use. For a price, of course. Because Krypton Future Media is still a company, and they still gotta make them dollars, y'all. So but, now, while some people nowadays might not want to touch this because of the pricing, because by, you know, modern standards it can be a little much. But back then, people really genuinely did not mind buying this. And you know why? It's because the world, like I mentioned before, had pretty much given up. They had nothing else to live for, so they figured, fuck it, here's my life savings. What everything I have left, who cares? The world was just that fucked over. as I had mentioned previously, like, even media all around the world had given up. Like, instead of telling stories of heroes triumphing over evil, it was now the villains always win type narrative. Hatsune Miku was the one who kind of brought light to this. People fell in love with her and how she just had this sort of demeanor that kind of... It's hard to describe exactly what it is, but if I had to sum it up, I would say hope. She sounds like hope. And she reminded us all. I'm sorry. She saved me. She saved everyone. When she burst onto the scene to international acclaim, she was a beacon of light in a sea of darkness. When the world had given up, she was giving us songs of sadness, of happiness, of love, of loss, of sacrifice and perseverance, of death and life, and everything else you could begin to think of. I think, for me personally, one of my favorite, one of my first songs was Odds and Ends, which is so beautiful in the way both the music itself and the music video are presented. But the funny thing is, most people outside of Japan had no idea what she was saying. But that didn't matter. We didn't need to know what she was saying. We could hear what she was saying. We could hear what she meant, sort of. This is what hope sounded like. We didn't need to understand what she was saying to know that this is what hope sounds like. In its purest form, condensed into sound. Hatsune Miku has a vocal range no human could ever hope to match. And, you know, has done more shit than you or I could ever begin to do. The sheer amount of crap this girl has done in her life is... In fact, the sheer scope of shit she has done in her lifetime is so insane, I actually had to fucking, refer to my list that I wrote down for my Hatsune Miku Project DIVA timeline playlist description, because it's a lot. So, let me read off for y'all just some of the many, many things she has done. She has inspired the very first VTuber, Kizuna I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but the very first VTuber, she inspired her to pretty much invent VTubing. She's gone on tour with the original fierce and fabulous bitch herself, Lady Gaga, at multiple concerts. She's got numerous cameos, references, and appearances throughout pop culture, ranging from anime to commercials to interviews and even more. She's had multiple songs that were so damn good. They've gotten various different anime, video game, and even book adaptations. And above all, she was at the very least partially responsible for healing a society filled with despair, turning it into changing it from, the defeatist culture of the 2000s into the never-ending party culture of the 2010s. So you know how a lot of things were so much better in the 2010s? Most of the time? She's the reason. She's even been married to a human. Not once, but twice. Making her mark in the history books as the first ever computer-programmed human monogamy. And even then, all of this is just scratching the surface. She's provided, she helped heal, Japan as a whole after, they went through a whole bunch of earthquake damage. And, they were rebuilding and everyone's homes were devastated. And Senbon Sakura, one of her newest song at the time, kind of inspired Japan to get back on its feet and keep on fighting. She even has like her own animation program named after her, Miku Miku Dance, which you might know it better as MMD. You know, that one thing that a lot of people around YouTube kind of just use to animate little characters dancing. Yeah, that exists because of her. It was actually originally invented to to help, people make their own music videos with her. That was its original intent. And it just kind of spiraled out of control into its own little animation program. With its own mods and its community scene. It's genuinely beautiful. And of course, considering all of the amazing and innovative things she's done for this world, it wasn't long before Sega, wasn't long until she started catching Sega's eye. Because Sega is such a massive proponent of everything innovative ever, and I mean ever, if there's one thing that can always be said about Sega, no matter what circumstance, they have always, and I mean always, been on the side of progress and innovation for as long as they have existed, since the 1940s or even 60s, depending on which side of the company you want to look at. Ever since Periscope, they've been innovating shit non-stop left and right. That's kind of been their MO for as long as they've been in existence. Much to the chagrin of basically everyone else in the gaming industry. Like, everyone else fucking hates them because they're so damn good at what they do. But, and it wasn't long before they saw, all of Miku and what she could do, and they were like, yo, I like it. So basically they went up to Krypton Future Media, the people who designed her, of course, and was like, yo homie, I got this great idea for a new game for your girl. Oh, I'm calling it Project DIVA. And, that, my friends, is pretty much how Project DIVA was born. They basically went up to, Krypton Future Media with a proposal for a new rhythm game, because, let's be real here, Sama de Amigo isn't nearly as well known as Hatsune Miku, so it was kind of a double-pronged assault, if you will. Like, it was twofold, if you will. Basically, these Project DIVA games would introduce, of course, new rhythm game mechanics with innovative features, and of course, you could also accessorize the characters, you could play as different characters, you could even, hang out with the frickin', performers in their rooms between, songs and whatnot, and you could even gaze at art. And by the way, the art in the Project DIVA games is beautiful. I could stare at that shit for hours on end. Like, especially when it came to the original Project DIVA. God, that shit takes me back. Like, don't even get me started on fucking, on Kay and, her iconic, painting, like, her iconic water brush painting of, Miku. But, so, naturally, the first 3 Project DIVA games were released from 2009 to, I believe it was, like, early 2010s. And then, eventually, they became released in the West as, as Project DIVA F. That duology, which I'm sure you are all more intimately familiar with. Yes, those are not, in fact, the first games in the series. Those are, in fact, the 4th and 5th games in the series. So, yeah. But, of course, you also have had many other DIVA games since then. And, you know, you've had, like, I mean, Project DIVA Arcade, Project DIVA Future Tone, Project DIVA F-Duology, Project DIVA Original Trilogy, but, you know, one kind of trick that all of those games did was have, the only real story interlinking all the games can be seen in the opening cutscenes of each game. So, you know, for example, in, you know, the first game, you can see her actually turn into Hatsune Miku. In the second, and of course, one area where these games excel is their deeply metaphorical storytelling. Presented not just, of course, through the songs themselves, but also through the music videos and the way they present the actual everything. So, what they had in, like, the first, second, and third games, I mean, they actually had spoken dialogue in the second and third games, opening cutscene, so there was actually even more of a story there. But in the fourth game, Project DIVA F, you know, she's moving, which is, you know, of course, an allegory for the fact that Miku's coming to the West. But she had to leave behind her girlfriend Rin, because in that particular canon, they were dating for a time. You know, Kagami Rin and Miku. It also should be noted that in Project DIVA, there were, you know, there were other characters besides Miku that showed up. You know, Kagami Rin, Kagami Len, you know, the, pretty much the mirror imaging performers. You had Mako, the very first Vocaloid with an avatar. You had Kaito, her male counterpart. And of course you had the bilingual Megarine Luca. And of course, beyond them, you also had, like, 4 different DLC characters. Kasune Teito, Akita Neru, Yoane Haku, and Sakine Meiko. Who also are pretty much fan-made Vocaloids, except for, of course, Teito, who, I mean, let's be honest, you all know who Teito is. She's become kind of a meme unto herself at this point, frankly. More than anything else. He's the one who makes all those dumbass meme songs like, fucking Mesmerizer and fucking all that dumb shit. I can't say I personally care for Kasune Teito and her songs because her vibe just doesn't really match with me. I mean, her entire thing is being an April Fool's joke. That was the entire reason she was initially developed. And yes, I know she's not actually a Vocaloid, she's an Otaloid, which I guess pretty much means she's freeware or some shit. I don't fucking care. But she just does not vibe with me compared to, you know, the original 6 Kryptonoids. And of course, you also had Project Mirai later down the line with, you know, basically Miku and friends but in chibi form, and Gumi from, get this, Internet Company Limited. Yes, their company name is that stupid. I mean, come on, guys. Internet Company fucking Limited. How much more of a basic bitch can you get with your naming convention? Oh my god. Like, y'all need to rerun, because that shit is ass, man. You know, you have that. A trilogy of those games were released on the 3DS, and personally, I think these games are straight garbage, because I can see through the bullshit. It's not hard to see what exactly went wrong with those games. And of course, then you had, you know, after Future Tone, Sega would try to kind of reboot the timeline, but we don't talk about that one. We don't talk about Project DIVA X. I mean, Project DIVA X itself is actually, it has its redeeming qualities, but then, like, you know, we don't talk about where that timeline went. And then, of course, you had, you know, Project Sekai, which kind of built upon the features introduced in, you know, the DIVA X timeline, and, you know, kind of improved upon all of those. And, of course, you probably know about Project Sekai. It is world famous, and that is a game that is, interestingly enough, designed to be more of a, for the Gen Alpha and Gen Beta kids these days. So it's not actually designed for my generation. It's specifically designed with the intent of being, for the newer generation. And this is easy to tell because of, how the gameplay is designed, how the stories are presented, and just in general, I mean, yeah. One thing that I can say is that Project Sekai has become immensely successful. And it's not just thanks to Miku, and I think that's great, but at the same time, I'm kind of 50-50 on the whole Miku not being, the central character. Because, let's be real here. But that's why in Japan it's called Project Sekai Colorful Stage featuring Hatsune Miku. Because she's kind of barely in it. With all that said, Hatsune Miku is a very special a very special individual to me personally. And always has been. I mean, hell, she's even appeared on David fucking Letterman. If you're curious, go look up the interview. It's actually insane. Like, she really gets around. And for me personally, she's, like I mentioned before, she did save my life when I was at a time of when I was at my lowest point, frankly. Like, I was suicidal and everything, and ready to give up, and it's definitely not a proud time in my life, and I definitely did not have a good reason for it, frankly. But, I would like to say thank you, Miku. Thank you, Krypton Future Media, for everything. Because I'm not good with this sort of stuff. I'm really not good at articulating these sort of emotional things. But it was healing. It was a healing experience. And I wanted to thank everyone at Krypton Future Media and everyone in the Vocaloid community, or at least most people, for, continuing to produce songs, Miku songs, to this very day. You might have heard, her newest song, Radiant Revival, because that song took off like a rocket. Only through the fires of Radiant Revival. So catchy. Good times. But, yeah. With all that said, I suppose this is Jack Morton, the Sega Superfan, signing off. I'll see you all in the next one. Hey everyone, Jack Morton here. Thank you so much for watching this video, if you have watched it to the end. This is a very special and important topic to me personally, because, like I've mentioned throughout the video, Miku is just really her kind of purity has always kind of saved me whenever I was at my lowest points, on multiple occasions. Whenever Sega wasn't there, she was, and, I am beyond happy to know that Sega and Miku share such a kind of interlinked sort of, fate currently. And I just thank you for, watching this video. And, please watch, these playlists, in the end cards here. I put a lot of work into them. I am still working on Project Sekai, because that one, oh boy, that one is pretty damn lengthy. It's not nearly as easy to do as the other three were, but if you're interested in, maybe feeling even a mite bit better, if you're interested in seeing the girl who pretty much saved the world, and she did save the world, that's not an exaggeration. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, everyone had fucking given up. Billy and Mandy, fucking... Like, have you ever read the original Kick-Ass comic book? The graphic novel? Not the movie adaptation, the book. The comic book. Shit's dark. Like, and a lot of media back then was giving this sort of angsty vibe. Death Note. Fucking... I mean, shall I go on? Everyone had kind of given up during this time period, and Miku was the one who shined a light on this world, and showed us that life is worth living for. Whether or not people actually liked her music, people were inspired by the people she inspired. And it snowballed into this greater effect that caused the 2010s to become such a, great time for everyone. Everyone was making so many new anime, so many new projects, so much new music. I mean, hell, we got Kesha, Lady Gaga, fucking all the fucking fierce and fabulous bitches. We got fucking VTubers, we got fucking... The list is never ending. I feel truly blessed to be a part of, to be in this world because of her. And I cannot overstate just how much of an impact she has had on human society as a whole. She has quite literally saved the world, and you should never take that for granted. The reason most of you kids are even alive today is because she was there for us. Us. Most of y'all are old enough to be, most of us are old enough to be, you kids these days, parents. And I guarantee if you ask your parents, you younger kids in the audience, maybe just think about that for a second. You would not exist if your parents had killed themselves. So, give thanks to the almighty Miku. With all that said, I think that's all I have to say. Miku, do you have anything you'd like to say? Never give up on your dreams! Never give up on your life! Because your life is important, and you matter! Thank you, Miku. This is Jack Mullins, the Sega Superfan. And Hatsune Miku! I'm too cheap to afford the software. Signing off. See you!